the news today that the CEO of UnitedHealthcare was murked, like straight up assassinated in the streets of New York, I believe, Midtown, while he was leaving his hotel. And while I absolutely do not advocate for violence, and I think that ultimately when we utilize violence, and I say we very broadly, I don't know who this person was. In fact, he's still at large. Um, Ultimately, violence will never be able to match the violence of the state, of the National Guard, of the military, of everything that's going to be weaponized to kill us. That already has been used to repress our social movements time and time again. We're going to talk about Kash Patel in a little bit, but if he's the new head of the FBI, look out, right? Because this is already coming down the pike. However, no one should really shed a tear other than maybe this man's immediate friends and family, because many of our friends and family, including ourselves, have maybe even lost our lives, maybe even taken our own lives. In fact, I know someone, a friend of mine, whose father did take his own life once he got a diagnosis that he knew would bankrupt the family should he seek treatment. No one should shed a tear for people who make money for themselves and their shareholders by denying healthcare coverage to millions and millions of Americans and saying, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I know you're saying, "What about the ACA? Didn't that fix everything?" To a certain degree, right? Because as we all know, those of us who pay for insurance on the marketplace, or if you don't, if you've been unemployed at some point, you've had this experience, you know what the deductibles are looking like. You know that the thresholds on the deductibles are incredibly exorbitant and high. And this is as someone who pays for two people about $1,200 a month for healthcare, which is insane. Insane that I spend that much money. And that's like for like the what is it? The copper wiring tier? Like it's not that much. It's not like the Lexus of plans in the marketplace, right? So while we're expected to say this is a travesty, how could this happen? You can kind of understand maybe why the CEOs of private health insurance companies that have again made their money off of our death and our illness might be targets. There might be a motive. I'm not justifying it, but in a time of mass income inequality, when people are struggling, don't expect us to shed a tear. Okay? I was just bumping 5 million ways to kill a CEO by the coup. Please put that on after the stream. It's a good song, okay? I don't advocate for what it says, but it's a bop, and I can't deny that. And your boy Ken Klippenstein, our everyone's boy Ken Klippenstein, has really been bringing the receipts on United Healthcare. He says today we remember the legacy of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, and this is sort of a graph of the percentages of claim denials by insurance company. And Kaiser's at the top, only 7% of denials. Oscar, Ambetter, Industry, all the way down, Cigna, Anthem, Medica, United Healthcare, 32% of claim denials. Massive. This got this man incredibly rich and his family and his shareholders. Yeah, there's also more, right? Like, I mean, what's funny about all this is, you've got the likes of Tim Pool, who I absolutely would never, I do not agree with, but he just randomly tweets out, United Health uses AI model with a 90% error rate to deny care, lawsuit alleges. That's from last November. Like, they're still gaming the system. They're still figuring out ways to make money off of death. So spare me. Spare me. I ain't gonna do that. We can also look Ken is just, I mean, on a full tear here, which I apparently he does have United, so I'm like, I feel you, dog. He says, I was wondering how United Healthcare gets away with being such a company, and this probably has something to do with it. And you see the amount of lobbying contributions since 1990, 34 million, and then lobbying since 1998, $100 million. Here's some of the top contributors who it donates to. Democrats and Republicans alike: Betty McCollum, Blake Moore, Republican, Brett Guthrie, Republican, Charles Schumer. Oh, I've heard of Charles E. Schumer. Chrissy Houlihan, Democrat, Darren LaHood, Republican, Darren Soto, Republican, on and on and on and on and on. On and on and on. And this is the reason we can't get universal health care, because the private insurance companies, they take our money or our employers' money. And if anyone is involved with a small business, or if you've ever actually thought of, gee, I wonder what my take-home check would look like were my employer not responsible for a basic need of mine, right? Your take-home would be a ton more, guys. That's the reality. And we would be able to advocate for better pay if our employers, if you're lucky enough for your employer to provide your health care. But this is the reason they take the money that we give them and they funnel it back into the political system to quash any efforts at single payer healthcare, because they are deathly afraid of that. And our politicians, Republicans and Democrats alike, their pockets are lined with it. And we know actually that the healthcare companies actually prefer, it's like the oil and gas companies prefer Republicans, and healthcare companies often will prefer Democrats. It's just, a different flavor of corruption. Gary Cooper, a friend of mine, unalived himself because he'd run out of money to pay for psychiatric care. I could cry, and I'm so sorry about that. That's literally what we're talking about, and, and look, I think the scourge of gun access and gun violence is wrong. So you won't catch me out here saying people should be more armed, people should do this or take matters into their own hands. But again, spare me with any kind of sob story, because when, again, it is either socialism or barbarism. We've said that a million times over. It is truer now than it's ever been. I'm fighting a weird cold. Not weird. I'm just fighting a regular cold, guys. One of those, just like didn't get enough sleep 2 nights ago because my daughter was up in the middle of the night. Here's just one glimpse at his annual salary. Not for the last, not his net worth. But Brian Thompson, again, CEO of UnitedHealthcare that was murdered in Manhattan today, made $9.8 million in a year. He got 2.8 as total cash. Of course, you can't fully pay that out because you'd have to pay taxes. So, you got to avoid that. $7 million was received as equity. $19,000 was received as pension and other forms of compensation. So, you know what? I've seen a lot of fun jokes about this. Obviously, it is in poor taste to make fun of this situation, but it's also in poor taste to allow sick people to die because they cannot afford the care. So, sorry. And just to put a cap on it, I really have to shout out my dear husband, Matt Lieb, who had this to say about the killing. He says, "My thoughts on the assassination of the UnitedHealthcare and the left's unfortunate need to celebrate acts of barbarism." And it's a pretty good video. Like he had made some really good points, so I wanted to play it. I'm sure it's going to get going at any moment. Wait, is this? This is hold music, isn't it? We're just on hold. I'm just trying to figure out if I can get my meds. I'm just trying to see a specialist within like the next 6 months. So that was Matt. We've had our own troubles and travails with healthcare coverage and getting like the meds we need. It's just so ridiculous. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Do it.